And now, a Buddy Check 13 reminder with News 13's Amy Hoyt.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for 13 Now. I'm News 13's Amy Hoyt, and we are coming to you live from our newsroom in downtown Panama City. Today is the 13th, and you probably already know that means it is Buddy Check Day, and this is where we remind you to check for lumps in your breast or look for anything that may have changed so that you can see your doctor, because as you know, early detection for breast cancer especially saves lives. Well, each month we bring you a special guest to talk about their experience as a breast cancer survivor and what they went through determining that they were diagnosed with breast cancer. And we have a special guest for you today, and you may recognize her. Her name is Sharon Gilson. And Sharon, welcome.
Thank you for having me today.
Before we get started and talk about your story, tell us a little bit about yourself. You teach at Arnold High School.
I do teach at Arnold High School, and I coach the cheerleaders, and I have about 6 clubs, the Interact Club, the Humane Society Club. We even have a little fishing club at Arnold, and we have the Recycle Club, and so I try to get involved with the students as much as possible. I've been teaching 31 years, and this is my 11th year at Arnold.
Wow, good for you. You're a busy lady.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we appreciate your efforts in the classroom as well.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk a little bit about breast cancer. We always hear family history, but we talked earlier that oftentimes when I interview breast cancer survivors here on this program, that there wasn't a family history and that they're quite surprised that they became a breast cancer patient. But in your case, the family history is long.
Yes, ma'am, it is. My great-great-grandmother had breast cancer, and it metastasized to bone cancer. And so when my grandmother was born, she passed away when she was 22 months old. And then my grandmother got breast cancer in her left breast and had it removed in 1978. And then in 1988, at 68 years old, she passed away.
Well, she was young.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this is your mom's mother and grandmother, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What happens at that point?
So at that point, we didn't have any other cancer until my baby sister. And whenever my baby sister got cancer at 43 years old, and she found a lump on Super Bowl Sunday, and so in 2008, and so she went to get checked, and when she got checked, they told her, yes, you have breast cancer, and she had medullary carcinoma cancer, and 3% of the people get medullary carcinoma, but only 1% of the 3% get it in breast cancer and don't have the BRCA1 or the BRCA2 gene. And so she had a stage 3 breast cancer, and they did a double mastectomy on her. And we all went to see her, and it was awful. I just remember crying a lot, and then her having like blisters in her mouth because she had to do the chemotherapy and the radiation for 21 weeks.
Wow.
And they would actually admit her into the hospital to do her chemotherapy and stuff because it was very, very aggressive. And she couldn't even hold a pencil to write her name. Her daughter stayed with her and helped her out a lot.
Is this the sister
This
you're
is my
speaking of?
sister, Gail. She was the last of us that had cancer. And she got cancer after I did and after my mother did. And we think that the Lord gave us our cancer and everything and helped us survive so that we could help her because she had 4 different types of cancer in her body when she got tested.
So it was a great-grandmother, a grandmother, a younger sister, then
me.
Then you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then
my mother, and then my other baby sister.
And that's a lot of people in one family in the course of, 20 years, not counting the great-grandmother?
Right, yes, ma'am.
Wow. And did everyone go and get tested right away? Like, were you like, oh, it runs in the family, I'm getting tested?
After my baby sister, she was 43 when she was diagnosed with her cancer. And so I went to my doctor because in August, I always get all my checkups and everything before school starts so that I don't have to take off and do these appointments. And so when I went, one of my students' parents actually was the person doing the mammogram. And she found something and she said, "Hey, I see something. The doctor's here. Let me go in and talk to him." And that's when my husband was still in the military, and Tyndall Air Force Base still had their hospital on Tyndall Air Force Base. And so she went to talk to the doctor, and she came back and she said, "Let's get dressed. The doctor wants to talk to you." And so I went in, and when I went in to speak with him, he showed me the spot on the mammogram. He said, "We're going to send you over to the MRI machine at Bay Radiology." And they had just gotten a machine in that was new to our area that could go in and do an MRI biopsy. So I went over and they put a marker in, and everything went good. And then they started watching it for a couple of years. So every 6 months, because of my family history, they then checked me with the MRI. And so they found something in 2012, August. And whenever I went to see Dr. Wong, who I love, y'all, Dr. Wong and Dr. Nunnery.
All of your treatment was in Bay
Dr. Weber.
County.
Yes, ma'am. And I love every one of them. They work so hard and, just do great things for us cancer patients. And so when I went in, he said, "Okay, we're going to do a needle biopsy." And I said, "No, I really can't do this needle biopsy. God's telling me to get an old-fashioned biopsy like when my grandmother was around." And so he took about a 4x4 spot out of the breast tissue and my upper shoulder, like right here. And it came back that I had the precancerous cells they were scattered, and it was invasive ductal carcinoma. So
You didn't have a specific lump?
no, ma'am, I did not know anything. I couldn't feel anything. The only thing that the doctors told me when I was doing my MRI and my mammogram is that I had dense breast tissue,
Right.
and that they couldn't really tell anything like that. And so we were getting the needle biopsy for that. But then Dr. Wong went ahead and did the old-fashioned biopsy on me.
So that's surgery.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So they're cutting a piece out to
Yes,
test it.
ma'am. And so it came back, and I happened to be right here actually on Harrison Avenue when Carolyn, his nurse, called, and I call her Auntie Carolyn. She's so sweet. And she said, "Hey, can you and your husband come see me?" And I said, "Auntie Carolyn, I already know I have cancer. It's in my family. And for you to want my husband to come, I really know." And I said, "I'm just down the road. I'll pop in and see y'all." So I went in to see them, and they told me, and I said, "All right, Dr. Wong, you have 2 weeks. Let's get this out." So that was September 11th is whenever I had my surgery in 2012.
So you just completed 10 years.
Yes, ma'am.
A few months ago.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, at that point, I know you said you knew because it ran in the family.
Mm-hmm.
But are you still emotional at this point, or were you just like, get it out, let's get it done?
I wasn't really emotional at all until I had the surgery. I came home. My mom took care of me and everything. And I didn't get emotional until I met Dr. Weber, who is fabulous. So he was my oncologist. And he walked me and my husband in. And I don't think I was really emotional about me. But it brings me to tears because there was this little old man sitting in there getting his treatment for chemo, and he was by himself. That's, I think, what broke my heart.
Yeah.
But because I had been around it, with my grandmother, my sister, and everything, I knew what I was going to be going through.
Right.
And because they caught it so early with me, I didn't have to have the chemo or the radiation. And I took the tamoxifen for 5 years, which is like a hormone blocker. And so I've been doing great ever since.
Now, how was your husband through all this? Now, being in the military, he's probably very disciplined. But to see your wife go through something like that, no matter what, has to be emotional a little bit.
It was terrible for him and my daughters. My one daughter was in nursing school, Sloan, and then Courtney was just 16. And with them knowing the history of our family, all of them were very on edge all the time. And my husband's mother had just passed away. She had cancer in her spine. And so, for him, he didn't show a lot of emotion, but, he hugged me and asked me what all I needed, and he'd hug me again and go, "Are you okay?" But behind the scenes, he wanted to be strong. And then the girls, we both were more worried about our daughters.
How old were they at the time?
So Sloan was 20 and Courtney was 16. And Sloan was actually at Gulf Coast going through the nursing program.
And now, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but obviously they must get tested even at a much younger age than what we consider, 40, get your first mammogram.
Yes, ma'am. So they went ahead and we had them do the BRCA1 and the BRCA2, and none of us that in our whole family that have had the cancer have had either one of those genes, and we even did the 28 gene test, and we didn't have any of those genes. So because of that, I feel that they'll start giving Sloan, because she's 30 now and Courtney's 27, or actually she just turned 31. I'm getting old.
She said, "Mommy just told everybody how old I was on live TV."
She's going to get me later, I'm sure. But I think she's going to start getting a mammogram at 35, and then they will start doing those depending, what they see.
But they're conscious of being tested at a young age.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now back to you. So you decide on having a double mastectomy, correct?
I did. My grandmother had her left breast removed, and then she went through cancer again. And instead of having to go through everything again, I, opted, because that's one thing that you can do, because they say that usually if you have it in one breast, 5-10 years later, you could possibly get it in another breast. And since I was going through this and my baby sister had a double mastectomy, I went ahead and did it so that it couldn't come back and I have to go through this again.
Now, how long after you have your diagnosis and treatment, your mom is diagnosed?
So September 12th is when I had my surgery, and my mom went home after taking care of me for a couple weeks, and then in November she was diagnosed and had her surgery, and she also had invasive ductal carcinoma and had a double mastectomy. And she's doing really well now. She's 79, and everybody says, "I can't believe that she's 79. She's going to kill me really now for saying that."
Well, she might appreciate it, because we're happy that she's here and doing well.
But she's doing great, and now she's the longest living on her side of the family.
Oh, that's
besides
wonderful.
her sister.
And then is that the end of the line as far as breast cancer in the women?
No, ma'am. So my baby sister, Gail, after my mom had her cancer, my baby sister, Gail, had 4 different types of cancer. She had the invasive ductal carcinoma in one breast, and then she had, I believe it was lobular carcinoma in the other breast. And then the hormone from the invasive ductal carcinoma was the hormone cancer with estrogen and progesterone and stuff. And so then they went in to do a hysterectomy, and that's when they found that she had cervical cancer. And then they did, she found out she had thyroid cancer. So
but everyone has survived this.
Yes, ma'am, and we're all doing good. She was 49 when she was diagnosed, and my mom was 68. I was 50, and my baby sister was 43. And then my grandmother was 58, and we're not sure exactly how old my great-grandmother was.
Looking at this picture that's on the screen now, this is you on my left,
yes,
correct?
Ma'am.
And who else is in this picture?
So my baby sister, the first one to have the cancer, is the redhead in the back with the pink jacket on, and then my mother's the redhead and the blue, and then Gail was the last one to have the breast cancer at 49, and then that's my other baby sister, Christy, in the front.
How does it make you feel when you think about it, or maybe how did you feel back then, knowing that you had such an extensive family history? That had to be a little scary.
It still scares me to this day. And I used to be one of the ones out in the sun. I teach swim lessons in the summertime, and I've done that for almost 28 years. And thinking, why would I ever go out in the sun again? But I put sunscreen on every day. They put sunscreen on. we take all of our vitamins that we have to take, and they've been, my baby sisters and my mom, they've actually taken the tamoxifen for 10 years.
Wow.
And they say, and I guess it kind of depends on who you talk to, maybe you should stay on the tamoxifen for the rest of your life. But Dr. Weber told me 5 years, but their doctors told them 10 years. And so my mom actually goes back at the end of this month and gets her hopefully 10-year checkup off.
Now, is this a pill that you're taking every day?
Yes, ma'am. Every day.
7 days a week?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, that's a lot.
So it is a lot. But, to block anything that you could possibly get for cancer, it was worth taking it.
Right. Are there any reactions to the pill?
No, none at all that I had or that they've had or that I'm aware of. Just that it's, kind of like that hormone blocker and keeps you from getting that cancer.
Now, going back all the way to your great-grandmother, you've seen firsthand that medicine has changed a lot over the years.
And I've thought about that a lot too. With my great-grandmother, I'm sure they probably, only touched the very surface of it, not knowing. And nowadays we have, like I watched a thing on TV just the other night about how dogs have some of the same genes and people and have had some of the same cancers, and them, working with them, it's helped with some brain cancer for different people and for kids that have had like lung cancer and everything. And looking at that, I'm just amazed that we can do the double mastectomy in the same day, like myself and my sisters go ahead and get the reconstruction surgery at the same time. So it's amazing, and I'm sure they're going to have more things come out in the future to hopefully not have to have cancer or breast cancer.
Well, it's obvious that you're doing great. We're glad all your family members are doing well. You look fabulous.
Thank you.
Do you still worry, though? Is there a chance it come back, or because you had the double mastectomy, that's not an issue?
So since I had the double mastectomy, I don't worry about getting breast cancer. And then I did have a hysterectomy after my cancer, about 6 months after my breast cancer. But
was there a tie?
No, there was no tie with it. It was just something else that was going on. And then I did have some thyroid issues, and they went in and took the parathyroid out on the back of, I think it was my left side of my thyroid. And so in the back of my mind, it's always there. And since we as a family basically have, we check with each other and we tell them, even though we've had breast cancer and stuff, we still get our checkups. And, I tell them, well, we do it on the 13th of every month. I do it with Amy Hoyt and all the people that I know. And I've had several people since I've had cancer ask me questions about it and talk to them. And if it were not for my friends and my family and my cheer moms and my cheerleaders and Arnold, because I was at Arnold when I had breast cancer, and them giving me extra days when I didn't have days. It was just
system.
I could not thank all them enough for being there and helping me. But it's always in the back of my mind, and especially when you've had other friends pass away from breast cancer and other cancers.
So what's your best advice for women moving forward with or without a family history?
Go get your checkup. Even for men, go get your checkup. My brother, we had him get a checkup because of all of us have had breast cancer. But you can be an advocate for yourself. Go get your checkup, see your doctor regularly, stay on top of it, because you don't have to go through what a lot of people have gone through if you'll just go get that checkup.
And catch it early.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's quite a story. We're glad you're great and your family looks good.
Thank you.
What a story. We appreciate you sharing it so much today, Sharon.
Well, thank you for having me, and go get your checkups, y'all.
Yes, ma'am. Sharon Gilson, we appreciate her so much for coming in today for our 13 Now Buddy Check interview. So it's a reminder, everybody, feel for lumps or maybe something hurts, something feels different. Just call your doctor. Get that mammogram if you're 40 or older. It won't kill you. I promise you. I've done it. We all survive it. It's over like that. All right. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time.